Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another special edition of the Kojima Productions Report. I'm your host, Sean Eystone, and today I'm here with David Hayter.
Hello.
Otherwise known as Snake.
That's right. In all his forms.
Yes, and we are here at the Sound Deluxe recording studios in Los Angeles.
One of my favorites.
Yes, and we have just wrapped up work on Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
Seems like we just started.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, everything but my vocal cords.
Yeah. Doing Snake all day long, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you know, there was a lot of screaming yesterday, so
that there was.
That was a tough day.
So how does it feel? You've wrapped up. It's the last day.
It's always very sort of nostalgic. I hate to... Also because you guys never tell me whether we're ever doing it again, so
Right,
I never know.
right.
Like every time we finish a game, I'm like, well, that may be it forever.
Right.
So, I mean, it's always tough to come to the end of it. And this one has been really fun. I loved. Can I say what?
You can say.
I loved getting
certain
into the
things,
story
yeah.
that we were in and the character that we were playing, and sort of fleshing out some of those story points that we hadn't seen before. And there was a real sense of fun about this one.
Totally. So what do you think, of the story? We can't say too much about it, but, just your general impressions, returning to Naked Snake, for example.
I think it's pretty epic. And, the fact that it's a PSP game, it's... I get concerned for the overall fans that if this is a major part of the history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a really major part of the history, and you really sort of see how the whole thing came together. And I even got more questions answered in this one than I did in Metal Gear 4, which was really sort of more the wrap-up of Solid's story, But I really, without getting too much more specific, I just thought it was very, very cool. In the same way that that's my phone.
Nice. That is awesome.
I'm going to ignore it. Yeah. But I left it on just so you could hear that I do have the codec ring on my cell phone. I really loved Metal Gear 3 to go back into the past, to take such a futuristic game and to go back into the past and see, the emergence of Big Boss was very cool to me. And this, had a very sort of similar feel to it. And you see some of these relationships emerging with some of the characters you find out down the road. And you find out that Big Boss had some similar relationships to the relationships that Solid Snake eventually had.
So you see some interesting parallels there.
Yeah, it's really beautifully done, and some of the great sort of surprises and Kojima-style humor is all intact.
As always. So. How was it like playing Naked Snake this time? Because he is a little bit more mature than the Naked Snake that we see in Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yeah.
And what did you bring to the role? What kind of things did you put into this character this time around?
Well, I always try to do something a little different, to take each story from the perspective of where the character is in their lives, and it may just sound like I'm doing the same thing every time, and that's fine too. But for this one, like when we did Metal Gear 3, I thought, we were playing. When I first played Solid Snake, he was already sort of a veteran who'd been beat up all his life, and he was pretty cynical. He'd already quit and gone up north and whatever. When I got to play Big Boss or Naked Snake in Metal Gear 3, I tried to give him more of a youthful enthusiasm. He's not quite been beat down by the world yet. And in this one, I tried to take that energy and give it, he's still got that, but now he's a man. Now he's in control of the thing. It's the first time he's really Big Boss,
Exactly.
And he's not beaten down by the horrors of the world at this point in his life. He's in command. He's pulling together his grand plan, and that's what I wanted to come through in the performance.
And I think it does.
Oh, well, thank you.
Very amazing job with it, as always.
Thanks.
And it is a really fine line there, like having him still sound youthful, and more experienced, and becoming that Big Boss that everybody knows later on, but still not quite, to that point where he's really cynical and really but
he's got enough experience. I mean, the line I tried to ride was he's got enough experience that if he's in a battle situation, well, he's battle hardened.
Right,
He knows what he's doing. He he's a lot more in control of the situation than Naked Snake in Metal Gear 3.
Definitely.
But it's really, to me, I felt like, this is the high point. This is the launching point of all of his dreams and all of his, ideas and concepts for the world of soldiering. And I thought, it'd be great to go into this as an enthusiastic adult, as a polished warrior, but somebody who is just in the prime of his life. So it's really fun from that perspective. And we also, one of the other lead characters who you'll recognize from other games, I really wanted sort of a fun relationship with that character as well.
We could say the name. I think
Yeah.
we've announced the names.
With Miller. And, the emerging relationship with Master Miller, is really a fun sort of, two soldiers knocking each other around, and there's a great deal of
it really
joy
is.
in that.
There's that banter between the two of them that's kind of new. That
totally.
hasn't really been.
We had that with
extent.
Otacon in the past games, but that's a different dynamic.
Right,
Otacon is not a soldier. Otacon is really the Costello to Snake's Abbott, where this
Exactly.
is like two soldiers in the field, but Snake is still on top of it all, but they have this mutual respect in their jabs at each other.
Yeah, and I mean, really, it's more like Miller's like Snake's right hand man.
Yeah.
And it's like they're in this together, and they're trying to move forward with their plans, and
Right,
it definitely
right.
is a different kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't give Miller a pass for wetting himself like I do with Otacon.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no excuse for that.
So just kind of catching up with what you've been doing, since Metal Gear Solid 4. Well, first of all, we haven't talked to you since Metal Gear Solid 4. So,
True.
What did you think of the way it turned out?
Oh, well, I thought it was spectacular. I thought that game was so beautifully done, and I particularly loved. It's odd to say this, having played the character, but I was really moved by the story. I was really pissed off that Meryl ended up with Johnny, and but that just made me feel worse for Snake in the end.
Right.
It's like, okay, enjoy your wedding. I'm gonna go die now. That sort of thing. But I just thought it was beautifully done, and I particularly loved going back to Shadow Moses Island, and when you got to have the fight between Metal Gear Ray and Metal Gear Rex.
Yes,
Was that what it was?
Yes.
I was like, this is awesome. And then the fight with Liquid, to hear all the old themes come back,
Yep.
and the old health bars and like all that
Yep.
stuff. I just thought, that's the beauty. That's the real beauty of what Kojima does. He understands the world that he's put you into, and there's always this. It's like, he's as much a fan as anybody else, and there's always this self-referential humor, and I just thought it was beautifully done.
Awesome.
But I did feel badly for poor old Snake. He really took a beating in that one.
That he did. He most definitely did. And I gotta admit, I'm partial to Shadow Moses stage as well, because I designed that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So
oh, yeah. It was
definitely
amazing.
is an awesome thing to work on, just because it is, bringing it back to the past.
Yeah.
It really does come full circle, at that point.
Yeah, and the first time you play the first Metal Gear, you just spend so much time there, and it just felt like coming home. And it's really, these games achieve what I don't know how many other games, very few other games are able to achieve, which is that feeling of, a sequel and going back into that world and really experiencing it. And the fact that the place was all blasted out and not quite the same as it was, but you still see the evidence of the things you did, 10 years ago. I mean, for me in particular, it was really quite a mind-bending journey back into that world. So awesome. I just absolutely loved it. It's a towering achievement, that game.
Excellent. So the thing is, as you said, we never know if there's going to be another game. We approach every Metal Gear
as if it's
going to be the last game. So we put everything we can into it. And even though this game is for PSP, we really have gone above and beyond anything that I think just about anybody has ever done on a PSP game. I mean, just this.
Oh
just
yeah,
the sheer scale.
We talked about the PSP, and and I had played the Metal Gear Acid games, the card game and everything, and that felt like a PSP game to a certain. I mean, no offense to that, it's just a different style of game. Yeah. Well, Portable Ops was pretty amazing. I played it on my PSP, and I'm like, this is a full-on game, and this is astounding. It's you just look at so much history here.
See, the